This unprecedented research, led by ecologist Simon McKinley and supported by institutions such as the Charles Darwin Foundation and National Geographic Pristine Seas, marks a turning point in our understanding of the marine ecosystems of the eastern tropical Pacific. The discovery of what could be called a lost shark sanctuary is not just a statistical finding, but a biological revelation that offers a glimmer of hope amid a grim global outlook for marine predators. To grasp the magnitude of this discovery, one must delve into the complexity of a study that combined cutting-edge technology, years of patient observation, and an unwavering passion for ocean conservation. Leave a like, subscribe, and share. Let's begin. The basis of this discovery lies in the massive deployment of non-invasive technology. During 3 years, between 2016 and 2019, McKinley and his team dedicated themselves to strategically placing 110 remote-baited underwater video systems, technically known as BRUVS. These devices represent a revolution in marine ecology, as they allow us to observe the fauna in its purest and most natural state. Unlike traditional diving expeditions, where the human presence and bubbles from breathing equipment can frighten or alter the behavior of animals, bait remote underwater video systems remain static on the seabed or suspended at specific depths. The bait, placed at a precise distance from the lenses, attracts predators through chemical stimuli, allowing the camera to capture not only the number of individuals, but also their social interactions, their apparent health status, and their size. The analysis of the 167 resulting hours of recording was a titanic task that revealed an astonishing reality: the presence of almost 400 sharks in areas that, although legally protected, had not been documented with such a level of scientific detail. This record is a relief to a scientific community that has watched with horror as global populations of sharks and manta rays have declined by 71% since the year 1970. The fact that these pockets of abundance still exist in the Latin American Pacific suggests that the region acts as a last bastion of resistance against the industrial overfishing that has emptied other seas of the world. The data published in the scientific journal PLOS One not only corroborate the intuitions of local divers, but also provide the empirical evidence needed to justify the expansion of conservation policies. The study focused on 7 marine protected areas forming a vital corridor in the eastern Pacific. These areas include archipelagos and remote islands such as the Galapagos in Ecuador, Malpelo in Colombia, Clipperton Atoll, and the Revillagigedo Archipelago in Mexico. These enclaves are not simply points on a map, they are true life-producing machines. Enric Sala, founder of Pristine Seas and co-author of the research, emphasizes that the results clearly demonstrate that marine reserves where fishing is totally prohibited work spectacularly. The recovery of biomass in these places is not a slow and tedious process, but an explosion of life that benefits even sectors that might initially oppose restrictions, such as artisanal and industrial fishermen. When a reserve is well managed, a spillover effect occurs where fish and sharks raised in the protected area migrate outwards, repopulating areas where fishing is allowed. One of the most fascinating aspects of the discovery of this sanctuary is the diversity of species recorded. Of the 372 individuals counted, 7 different species were successfully identified with precision, each with a unique ecological role. Among them are the white-tip reef shark, a common but essential inhabitant, the Galapagos shark, which dominates the waters surrounding the volcanic islands, and the tiger shark, a large predator that regulates populations of turtles and other large vertebrates. However, the most exciting discovery for McKinley was the abundance of the humpback hammerhead shark. This species, scientifically known as Sphyrna lewini, is currently critically endangered globally. Seeing them swim in large schools in Malpelo and Galapagos is a reminder that if given a refuge free of nets and hooks, these majestic creatures can thrive. The hammerhead shark is considered by many experts to be the barometer of the ocean's health. Its sensitivity to changes in the environment and its vulnerability to targeted fishing, due to the high value of its fins in the Asian market, make it a symbol of the fight for conservation. In the past, these gatherings of hammerhead sharks were common in many parts of the Pacific, but today they are rare events that only occur in very specific locations. The Charles Darwin Foundation study underlines that these oceanic islands represent a window to the past, allowing us to glimpse what the oceans were like before human pressure irreversibly altered the natural balance. Pelayo Salinas de Leon, the Foundation's principal investigator, argues that these places are the last examples of a healthy ocean where apex predators are the norm and not the exception. The research also yielded crucial data on the life cycle of these animals. When analyzing the Clipperton recordings, scientists noticed an interesting phenomenon. The vast majority of Galapagos sharks observed there were juvenile individuals. This suggests that the atoll functions as a breeding ground or nursery, a safe place where young sharks can grow up protected from larger open ocean predators. Conversely, in areas closer to the continental coasts, much larger and more mature individuals were recorded, indicating that these areas serve as feeding or social aggregation zones for adults. This differentiation is vital for conservation strategies, as it demonstrates that it is not enough to protect just one point in the ocean. Sharks are migratory animals that require a connected network of sanctuaries to complete their life cycles. However, the researchers' optimism is tempered by an urgent warning. Despite the beauty and abundance found in remote areas, coastal zones show serious signs of depletion. Human intrusion, whether through illegal fishing that ignores reserve boundaries or through unchecked and poorly managed tourism, remains a constant threat. Simon McKinley warns that global warming adds an extra layer of complexity to the problem. Rising ocean temperatures affect the availability of nutrients, altering the currents that bring food from the depths. If food sources become scarce, sharks are forced to leave the safety of protected areas to seek sustenance in open waters, where they become vulnerable to international fishing fleets operating without strict regulations. The relationship between sharks and humans has historically been marked by fear and ignorance. For decades, they were portrayed as bloodthirsty monsters, an image that facilitated public indifference to their mass killing. However, studies like McKinley's are helping to change this narrative. Sharks are not enemies, but indispensable allies. A reef with sharks is a resilient reef. By controlling populations of medium-sized fish, sharks allow herbivorous fish to keep in check the growth of algae that would otherwise smother corals. Ultimately, the health of coral reefs depends on the presence of these predators, and the livelihoods of millions of people around the world who depend on tourism and subsistence fishing depend on the health of the reefs. Leave a like, subscribe, and share. The success of the sanctuary in the tropical Eastern Pacific is also a triumph of international cooperation. Managing national parks like the Galapagos requires a coordinated effort between governments, scientists, and park rangers who risk their lives to patrol these waters. The study highlights that the honor of scientifically confirming what divers observe daily carries with it an immense responsibility. It's no longer just about admiring the beauty of a hammerhead shark underwater, but about using that data to demand that governments shield the oceans from human predation. Creating marine corridors that connect the waters of Ecuador, Colombia, Panama, and Costa Rica is the next logical step to ensure that this lost sanctuary is not just an ephemeral memory captured on videotape. Science is clear on this. Marine protected areas are the most effective tool we have to combat the decline of marine biodiversity. But for them to be effective, these areas must be large enough and well monitored. The study in PLOS One acts as a catalyst for public opinion to understand that protecting the sea is not an aesthetic luxury, but an existential necessity. Every hour of footage from McKinley is proof that marine life has an amazing ability to recover when given a break. The presence of pups in Clipperton and large pregnant females in Malpelo is a sign that the cycle of life continues to beat strongly in the heart of the Pacific. When reflecting on the impact of this research, it is impossible not to think about the future of the next generations. Will they inherit an empty, silent ocean, or will they be able to experience the wonder of seeing a school of hammerhead sharks darkening the sun above their heads? The discovery of this sanctuary tells us that we still have time. It is not a definitively lost ecosystem, but a system that has been hidden by the vastness of the ocean, and that now demands our attention and protection. The work of men like Simon McKinley, Enric Sala, and Pelayo Salinas de Leon is just the tip of the iceberg of a global movement that seeks to reconcile humanity with the seas. The importance of this finding also lies in its ability to influence regional economic policies. Ecotourism based on shark watching generates significantly higher income than the sale of shark meat or fins. A single live shark in a place like the Galapagos or Cocos Island is worth millions of dollars over its lifetime due to the constant flow of tourists who travel from all corners of the world to see it. In contrast, a dead shark sells for a minimal fraction of that amount in a local market. This economic logic is a powerful argument to convince decision-makers that conservation is the most profitable investment for the future of Latin American nations. In the coming years, the data collected in these 167 hours of recording will serve as a baseline for monitoring the impact of climate change. If shark populations begin to decline in these sanctuaries, it will be an early warning sign that something is deeply wrong with the planet's thermal engine. For now, the discovery of these almost 400 sharks is a victory to be celebrated, but also a reminder of the fragility of the balance. The scientific community, now armed with solid evidence, has the task of turning this momentary relief into permanent protection. The Latin American Pacific has proven to be a paradise that endures, a sanctuary that, despite constant pressures, continues to offer refuge to the oldest and most charismatic inhabitants of the seas. The research work carried out in the tropical Eastern Pacific underlines that knowledge is the most powerful tool for conservation. By documenting the existence of these species and their critical habitats, scientists have brought to light a biological treasure that many believed was lost. The shark sanctuary is not just a geographical area. It is a symbol of resilience and a call to action. As long as there are people like Simon McKinley willing to spend years observing the depths, and as long as there are institutions determined to protect these spaces, there is hope that the decline of the last 50 years can be reversed. The ocean has given us a clear clue as to what it needs: space, respect, and protection against unchecked ambition. The future of sharks, and by extension our own, depends on our ability to listen to what these 167 hours of video attempt to tell us about the health of our blue planet. This scientific effort not only benefits the species studied, but also redefines our relationship with the environment. By understanding that the shark is a vital component and not a threat, we can begin to build an ethic of coexistence with the natural world. The results of the study are a testament to the beauty that still exists in the most remote corners of the Earth, and a challenge to ensure that these sanctuaries are not lost again, this time forever. Protecting the Eastern Tropical Pacific is, ultimately, protecting life itself, safeguarding the ocean's heartbeat so that it continues to resonate with the same force that McKinley felt when he saw those 372 sharks through his underwater lens. This is a historic opportunity for Latin America to lead the way in global marine conservation, demonstrating that development and nature can and should coexist in harmony. The gaze of those sharks captured on video is an invitation to responsibility and wonder, a reminder that beneath the waves there are still worlds to discover and treasures to protect that are worth far more than any short-term gain. The sanctuary is there, pulsating and full of life, waiting for us to be wise enough to let it be. Leave a like, subscribe, and share. Until next time.